For me, it was from 8th grade on, and everybody. And you were a prude if you weren't drinking. It's like a rite of passage in life, alcohol is, and it shouldn't be that way. I really had no idea. My dad didn't drink, mom didn't drink. I was, in school at the age we're talking about here in these videos. I was a straight A student. I was captain of the football team, straight A student in college, and I always thought I could control my drinking. I always thought an alcoholic was someone who either drank every day or drank in the mornings. And I didn't understand what one was until later, as this got worse and worse and worse inside of me, and I couldn't control it anymore. There's basically two groups of people that get into recovery. It's either it wasn't working for them anymore or consequences. And I'd say it's about 50-50, and I'm in there because of consequences. I got a couple of DUIs in 2 years and got fired and almost killed myself. And my career was over. I went off to treatment and I learned about the disease. Tough road back, but there are a lot of promises and blessings to be reaped. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that because, they were depressed. It's the reason why they needed alcohol in the beginning. And then you take the alcohol away and they go back to being depressed, and the suicide rate is amazing. Yeah, the hardest part was seeing the devastation I caused my family. And the hardest hill to climb was thinking, oh my gosh, I got to go the rest of my life without drinking. And of course, they'll tell you can't think of it in those terms. You have to think of it in terms of a day at a time and do what you need to do each day. I never really know when I'm going to have a problem with possibly wanting to drink. I can go in a sports bar with my buddies and watch an NFL game and be good and never want to drink. And on the other hand, I can get off work at the Kentucky Derby after working a 17-hour day and be walking to my car and walk past all the people drinking, and it brings back that euphoric recall of the good old days, and I want to drink bad. And I got to figure out a way to call my sponsor and have an exit strategy and get out of there and use the tools I've learned in recovery. There are a lot of misconceptions about alcohol when it comes to discipline. People think that you're just undisciplined if you drink and you can't stop. The single most important thing that I've ever learned in recovery is about the science of addiction, and the fact that, as one of the local doctors here says, he always says we were born a quart low, and what he's talking about is dopamine. That through human genome testing in the late 90s, he says they were able to determine that 8 to 12% of humans are born genetically predisposed to addiction. And they don't know it. It's because they have low dopamine and serotonin in their brain. And you can adjust serotonin with antidepressants, but there ain't nothing out there for dopamine. And when you do find, eventually, alcohol, drugs, gambling, porn, it's on, because that raises your dopamine to a level you didn't even know you weren't normal. And then it raises you to a point like, wow, this is great. And you want it more and more and more, and your brain pathways recarve to deliver the dopamine to the receptors faster, and then your disease is on. The studies show that if you had one grandfather who was an alcoholic, you have a 40-some% chance of being an alcoholic, and then if both your grandfathers were an alcoholic, it's 90-some%. The 12-step process helped me the most. When I describe the 12-step process to other people who aren't even alcoholics, they're amazed by it. It's a great blueprint for life. And what I never understood was that I could have the most spiritual experience of my life, be coming out of church on a Sunday, heard a great sermon, never been more in touch with God in my life, and physically, spiritually fit, get home, flip on the tube, and it's kickoff at the Packers-Bears. And my brain's like, it's time to drink. Yeah, I still deal with issues, but I've got a toolbox of all sorts of tools. And there's a reason why there's so many people celebrating 30, 40 years of sobriety every week at the meetings I go to. I differ with some who say they're just so thankful that they're an alcoholic because their life is so good today. I won't go that far. I'm not thankful that I have a chronic, progressive, fatal, if untreated disease. I'm not thankful to have a disease, but I'm thankful to have found recovery and to be able to use these tools to become a completely different person that I may not have ever been had this not happened to me. And you got to do the saying in recovery is do the next right thing. You just keep doing the next right thing. People say, what's the next right thing? Well, you know what the next wrong thing is. Do the next right thing as a parent. And you'd be amazed at the miracles and the promises that come true.